to make sure that you have this information at your fingertips so that you can actually comfortably participate in this national exercise. Now, I'm joined by Ivan Otim from the African Youth Development Link. He's a programs and monitoring as well as evaluation officer there. Good morning to you, Mr. Otim.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Okay. Let's first understand what is African Youth Development Link and what is their role?
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. Otim Ivan is my name, working for the African Youth Development Link. The African Youth Development Link is a youth-focused organization that was founded way back in 2014. And as a youth organization, one of the things that we do best is that we provide a link between young people and the duty bearers. As one of our key mandates is that we envisage that there's nothing that can be for young people if they are not part of any processes. So for us as an organization, our critical celebration is that when young people are included in development processes and consulted and engaged, then we'll definitely be able to see how they make a contribution while they're echoing their voice in meaningfully development processes.
All right, so NIRA has unveiled a comprehensive guideline for the upcoming mass enrollment of this exercise of renewing national IDs. How is the organization supporting young people to participate in this process? Well,
we know very well, for example, let me just contextualize this conversation. Earlier before, there has been a conversation that the country has 45 million people. And then you've heard, for example, that only 27 million are registered and 18 million are unregistered. And for us, because we speak for young people, we believe that as part of those that are not registered, 18 million are critical young people who probably don't have information and access to some of these services. So our engagement here is that how do we create a partnership to see how we can reach out to these spaces where we can find young people and see how we can also mainstream messages that are targeted to them in how they understand, for example, the importance of a national ID. While we can say national ID all in NIN number is a critical service, not very many of our young people currently probably know how important it is in the context that, for example, right now, a national ID is a critical service that you can have access to a service, for example, registration of a SIM card or even accessing government programs if you don't have a NIN number. And in our observation, in our engagements where we work across the country, one of the things that we have observed is that very many young people don't have these NIN numbers or even a national ID, and thus they can't access government programs. That makes it very much profound for us to see how we create that missing gap and see how we can be able to partner and reach out to very many young people with the messaging on registration.
Okay, let's talk about working with government. For example, with this exercise of NIRA, I know that in most recent times they've been calling on those that are 18 years and below to participate in the exercise, just to get national IDs or the identification numbers in the first place. How have you been able to complement them in actually reaching out to as many youth, but also in youth understanding their mandate in participating?
So there are two things. One, we all know that for us who accessed our national IDs way back, our national IDs are going to expire. And maybe the information that every young person should know, and those that have a national ID, is that while your national ID expires, your NIN number doesn't expire. So the mass registration in that context is that it's going to provide an opportunity for those that have probably never had an opportunity to register. Within the context of mass enrollment is that NIRA is looking at enrolling every citizen of Uganda, even if they are 0 to whatever years, on the national database. But here from the context of mass registration and mass enrollment, we're looking at how do we create opportunity for many young people who have never understood the importance of a national ID. First of all, understand the processes of getting them to register, but again also getting them the right information on what details they need to fill in. Because in our engagements we have found various challenges. For example, when you are going to register for a national ID, one of the particulars that you need are probably credentials for either your relatives or your parents, and this could be your NIN numbers. But our engagement with the ghetto youth, and many of them, ghetto youth will tell you that probably many of them don't have that lineage. They don't have parents, they don't have relatives. So they ask the question, how do we then be part of this national engagement when we don't have such kind of processes? So these are conversations that we bring to the national agenda to see how, as a nation, we can create meaningful discussions about them, because then they are limiting in one way or the other. But again, there are also conversations that can be able to create a disengagement. And we know when young people are disengaged from national development processes, the alternative that will come for them is not meaningfully engaging in some of them. So the angle that we are creating is that if we can be able to reach out to these young people in their various capacities, youth in schools, youth in the ghetto communities, and we create grounds on how we can facilitate some of these support services, then we can be able to see how the service provider, and that is NIRA, can be able to reach out to these various groups.
Speaking of facilitation, I know that at the beginning of this year, this conversation was coming up as NIRA was, of course, bidding for a budget to support this process. And one of the ways we're looking into that support is by asking every Ugandan to part away with about 50,000 shillings for the renewal of this identity. The government offering a waiver on that, but let's talk about still the cost implications of the youth participating in national exercises. They have to move from their homes to possibly the division or district levels to be able to engage in this exercise, and so that being one of the hindrances, what other hindrances have they also presented as challenges for them participating in national exercises like this?
Yeah, good question. While that could be a very good point, let me answer it this way, that for the young people to be able to move various journeys to come to NIRA registration centers is an act of citizenship. So when you're a citizen of Uganda, you have civic rights, you have civic duties, you have civic responsibilities, and all these give you an opportunity to see how you can meaningfully participate. So for me, if I need a service, I will find my way to see how I can go and get that service. But also from the duty bearer at that moment is to find how meaningfully the challenges that can be hindrance to accessing that service can be avoided, then becomes an opportunity for the service provider here to ensure, to say, okay, if we are going to reach out to young people, and we know young people have challenges in accessibility, in mobility, how do we provide mobile registration centers in their parishes, but also how do we provide targeted services, because very many young people across this country would like to get a service or a message that targets them. So most times we are probably sending out messages not in youth-friendly formats. For us as African Youth Development Link, and if this is how we can partner, is that we're aware that if we are going to send out messages and information to various young people, we need to use, for example, your music shows here at NTV, because we know that very many young people listen in to those very beautiful shows, and that's how you can get the message. So how do the service provider get to understand that an advert is good, but also if you're going to target the messaging, using very creative ways and tools and methods is very critical for you to be able to reach out to the messenger, and the message goes out to them.
All right,
very well.
Mr. Otim, in closing, we do have the census that is 7 days to go, and so call to action to the young people and how they can participate in this exercise.
Yeah, my fellow young people in this country, we have a census. A government is planning to make a count of every citizen, and thus be able to ensure that every citizen of this country is counted and can be able to be planned for. So let's be in our homes, let's be everywhere where we can be counted, and because then it's an opportunity for you to be counted as a citizen of the country. But again, also an opportunity for you to know that when the opportunity for you to be counted comes, it must be matched up with demand for a service, because then they will know the demand that you definitely have, all the challenges that you have. So let's be able to be prepared to make that opportunity of voicing those issues when the opportunity time comes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ivan Otim, who is with the African Youth Development Link, making a stance there and a call to action for all youth to actively participate in national exercises. That brings us to the end of Morning at NTV. Thank you so much for having been with us all the way from 6:30 to 9 o'clock. Have yourselves a good day. Mwasi Zemtia coming up.